You never told me you are this tight, Korean mafia boss said to his black virgin wife as he gasps. The hall was a masterpiece of power, dark marble floors, chandeliers dripping with crystal, and 100 silent guests who watched from behind emotionless masks. No one dared breathe too loudly. Not when Jin Song-kang, the most feared mafia boss in Seoul, was getting married. Amoni Okafor stood at the entrance, fingers trembling inside her satin gloves. Her white dress hugged her curves softly, and her dark skin glowed under the lights like warm bronze touched by fire. She didn't know if she was walking into a future, or a sentence. Her father whispered urgently at her side. Amoni, once you step forward we are protected. Remember that. Protected. Yes. But at what cost? The music began, slow, ceremonial, heavy, and the room turned toward her. Men stiffened. Women gasped softly. Even Jin Song's elite guard stood straighter. And then she saw him. Jin Song stood waiting at the altar, hands clasped behind his back, wearing a black silk suit embroidered with subtle gold threads. His face was unreadable, sharp jawline, cold eyes, lips pressed into a line that could mean danger or restraint. He didn't blink as she walked. But something in his eyes shifted, a spark of surprise. Amoni wasn't the fragile porcelain doll he expected. She was radiant, dignified, breathtakingly calm despite shaking inside. Her heels clicked closer. His breath hitched only once, so quietly no one else noticed. When she reached him, he lowered his head slightly, an unexpected gesture of respect. He murmured, voice deep and smooth. So you're the woman they want to give me. Amoni swallowed. I'm not something to give. A flicker? Amusement? Admiration? Whatever it was, it softened his posture. The officiant began the ceremony, but Jin Song didn't look away from her. Not even once. When it came time for the vows, he spoke first. His voice carried across the hall like velvet-coated steel. I, Jin Song-kang, take Amoni Okafor as my wife. Not for alliance. Not for power. But because she stands here unafraid of me. Gasps rippled through the room. Amoni's turn came. Her voice quivered, but she didn't break. I take Jin Song-kang as my husband. Not because I understand him. But because I want to know why someone like him needs someone like me. His eyes widened, only a fraction but enough to reveal shock. When he slid the ring onto her finger, his thumb brushed her skin. Warm, slow, possessive. A tremor shot up her arm. He whispered, barely audible. You glow, even in a place like this. And for a moment, one brief, dangerous moment, the mafia boss and the virgin bride stared at each other like they were the only two people in the world. After the officiant declared them husband and wife, Jin Song didn't kiss her in front of the crowd. He only leaned in, letting his breath touch her ear. Your first kiss from me will not be for an audience. Amoni's pulse skidded. Her knees weakened. Then he took her hand, gently, almost reverently, and led her down the aisle as whispers exploded behind them. The mafia boss had a wife. And she already owned his attention. The penthouse looked like something from another world. Amoni stepped inside, her heels sinking into velvet carpeting as endless glass windows opened to the night skyline of Seoul. Sharp, glittering, dangerous, beautiful. Just like the man who brought her here. Jin Song stood behind her, silent as a shadow. He didn't touch her. Didn't guide her. He just watched. It wasn't the cold stare people feared. This one was slower. Focused. As if he was memorizing how she breathed. Amoni swallowed hard. Do you always stare like that? His voice came low, almost a whisper. Only at things I can't figure out. Her heart thudded. He tries to keep distance, and fails. He walked past her, shrugging off his suit jacket, the muscles of his forearms flexing beneath his dress shirt. But even that small movement had control, the kind of control that came from a life built on discipline, violence, and secrets. He gestured toward the kitchen counter. A warm tray of food waited, cooked, plated, still steaming. Amoni blinked. Did your staff prepare that? He looked away. No. She froze. You cooked. His jaw shifted. Was that embarrassment? You didn't eat at the reception, he muttered. I didn't want you going to bed hungry. Amoni stared at him in disbelief. This was the same man whispered about in fear? The same man who controlled entire territories? She sat down to eat and Jin Song didn't leave. Instead, he sat across from her, arms crossed, gaze unwavering. Every bite she took, he watched her reaction carefully, like her opinion mattered more than he'd ever admit. The bodyguard's warning. A knock came at the door. Jin Song's right-hand man Min-jae stepped inside and bowed slightly. Min-jae's eyes flicked to Amoni, then to Jin Song, then back to Amoni. The boss's voice hardened instantly. Speak. Min-jae hesitated. Sir. The men are worried. They think having a new wife in the penthouse is a liability. Amoni stiffened. But Jin Sung didn't flinch. His voice was cold enough to silence an army. Anyone who disrespects my wife disrespects me. A beat. And I don't forgive disrespect. The message was clear. Min-jae bowed deeply before leaving. Amoni stared down at her hands. You didn't have to defend me like that. He leaned forward, eyes darkening. You are under my roof. Under my name. Under my protection. Another pause, softer this time. No one touches you. No one doubts you. Not even me. Her breath caught. The moment she confronts him. Later that night, she wandered to the balcony, drawn by the glittering city below. The wind tugged at her hair, carrying the faint scent of rain. Jin Sung appeared beside her, quietly like he always did. He didn't crowd her. He didn't reach for her. He simply stood close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Amoni whispered, "Why are you acting like I'm fragile?" For the first time, something broke in his expression, a crack in the armor. He spoke slowly, each word careful, almost reluctant. Because I've lived a life that destroys delicate things. She turned to him. And you think I'm delicate? His gaze lowered to her lips for a fraction of a second, a slip he didn't mean to show. You came into my world polite, brave, unbroken. Do you know how rare that is? Amoni felt heat rise in her chest. And what if I'm stronger than you think? Jin Sung stepped closer, just one step, but it changed everything. The air thickened. His presence overwhelmed her senses. His voice dropped, warm and dangerous. If you were weak, I wouldn't have married you. Her pulse fluttered wildly. He reached up, slowly, giving her a chance to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed a stray curl behind her ear, lingering longer than necessary. A spark shot through her. He inhaled sharply as if the simple touch burned him. Then he stepped back abruptly, breaking the moment. His chest rose and fell too fast. He didn't want her to see how deeply she affected him. Good night, Amoni, he murmured, voice unsteady in a way she had never heard. He vanished down the hallway before she could reply. And Amoni realized something shocking. The terrifying mafia boss was scared of her. The evening air over Seoul was crisp, restless, the kind that carried whispers of danger long before danger arrived. Amoni couldn't sleep. Jin Sung had been distant since the balcony moment. Not cold, no, never cold with her. More like a man terrified of losing control. So she wandered the penthouse alone, her bare feet soft against the marble floor, until she discovered a narrow door hidden behind a decorative screen. It opened to a staircase. And at the top, a rooftop garden lit by lanterns glowing gold against the dark sky. She stepped out carefully, her dress fluttering in the wind, and froze. Jin Sung was already there, standing at the edge, overlooking his empire. He didn't hear her, but he felt her. He didn't turn when she approached, didn't speak, didn't move. But she watched the way his shoulders tensed, the slightest flicker, as if he sensed her presence the way others sensed danger. Amoni hesitated. You always come up here at night? His voice was quiet, almost lost in the wind. This is the only place I can breathe. She stepped closer. Am I disturbing you? That's when he finally turned. His eyes, dark, stormy, full of things he didn't know how to say, locked onto hers in a way that sent heat rushing through her chest. You, he murmured, are the one thing that doesn't disturb me. Her heartbeat stumbled. The ambush no one saw coming. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed sharply. He answered in Korean, low, clipped, dangerous. A language she didn't understand, but the tension in his voice said enough. Amoni stepped closer. What's wrong? He didn't lie. He never lied to her. Someone is moving against us. They shouldn't know where we live. The word has hit her like a jolt. Before she could ask another question, a sudden crack echoed across the rooftop. A gunshot. Amoni flinched, gasping. Jin Sung reacted before thought, grabbing her wrist, pulling her into his chest with a force that felt like instinct, not decision. He shielded her with his entire body, his breath hot against her ear. Stay down. Don't move. Another shot. Glass shattered. Amoni trembled and he felt it. His arms tightened around her, firm, protective, furious, as he crouched behind a concrete pillar with her tucked tightly beneath him. Min-jae's voice crackled through his earpiece. Boss, sniper spotted. 2 rooftops away. We're clearing the area now. Jin Sung growled. They aimed at her. Amoni's eyes widened. Me? Why? He grabbed her face gently but firmly, forcing her to meet his gaze. Because they know the fastest way to kill me is to hurt you. Her breath caught. Heat rushed up her spine. There it was again. Us, you, mine. unspoken but unmistakable. The first time she truly saw his fear. Once Min-jae confirmed the rooftops were cleared, Jin-sung didn't stand immediately. He kept her against him, his chest rising and falling too fast, too uneven. This wasn't the controlled mafia boss everyone feared. This was a man terrified. Amoni lifted a shaking hand, the hand he hadn't noticed she moved, and placed it carefully against his cheek. He stiffened. Completely. Like her touch short-circuited something inside him. Jin-sung, look at me. Slowly he did. His eyes weren't furious anymore. They were shaken. Raw. Open in a way she had never seen. You could have been hurt, he whispered, voice cracking with emotion he tried to hide. I don't. He stopped, jaw clenching. I don't survive things like that. Amoni felt her heart twist. She stroked his cheek again, her thumb brushing lightly across his skin. He inhaled sharply, a soft, shocked gasp, like that single touch reached deeper than any blade ever had. I'm here, she whispered. I'm safe. His hand rose slowly, hesitant, trembling, and covered hers. For the first time he let their fingers intertwine. It wasn't a romantic gesture. It was a confession. Silently, with nothing but the way he held her, he said everything he had never dared speak. You matter. More than my pride. More than my power. More than my life. The moment that changed everything. The rooftop lights flickered in the wind, casting soft shadows across his face. Amoni whispered, Why does my hand make you react like that? He swallowed. Art. A soundless, helpless answer. Because it feels like you're touching the one part of me no one else has ever tried to reach. Her breath shuddered. The wind stopped. The city fell away. Only the two of them remained, holding hands like their hearts had finally recognized each other. And Jin-sung, the feared mafia boss, leaned his forehead gently against hers and exhaled as if he'd been holding his breath his whole life. The rooftop incident changed everything. Amoni woke the next morning to the quiet hum of the penthouse, a world too calm for the chaos that had nearly taken her life hours before. But Jin-sung wasn't in the room. Instead, she found him in the living area, standing shirtless under the dim morning lights, bandaging a cut on his shoulder, a cut he'd gotten while shielding her. She rushed toward him. You're hurt. He held up a hand. Not to stop her. To calm her. It's nothing. But the moment she reached out and touched his arm, he flinched. Not away from pain, but toward her, as if drawn involuntarily. Amoni's fingers moved over the bandage gently. His breath hitched. You shouldn't have taken a bullet for me, she whispered. He looked at her, jaw clenching. I'll take 100 if I have to. Her chest tightened painfully. A quiet breakfast turns into tension. He insisted she sit. He cooked again, eggs, rice, thin slices of marinated beef, surprisingly domestic for a man whose name made grown men kneel. Amoni watched him. The way his muscles moved. The way he paused every few seconds to glance at her. The way he pretended not to notice her staring. Finally she spoke. Soft, but brave. Why are you gentler with me than with anyone else? The spatula froze midair. Jin-sung didn't turn. Couldn't. His voice dropped low. Because you make me feel things I don't know how to control. Heat spiraled through her stomach. A question she didn't expect him to ask. Later, after breakfast, he guided her to the couch. He sat opposite her, elbows on his knees, head lowered slightly, the posture of a man trying to steady himself. Without looking up, he asked, Last night, when I held you, did I frighten you? Amoni blinked, stunned. No. Jin-sung, you protected me. Only then did he lift his gaze. There was something vulnerable in his eyes, something almost boyish beneath the hardness. I've never touched someone like that without losing control. She tilted her head. You didn't lose control. His jaw shifted. Amoni, you don't understand how close I was. Her breath stuttered. Close to what? He looked away again, the mafia boss suddenly shy, almost tortured. Close to forgetting who I am. The confession that broke his control. Silence stretched between them, charged, heavy, intimate. Amoni's voice was soft when she spoke. There's something I need to tell you. He tensed instantly. What is it? Are you sick? Did someone threaten you? She shook her head. It's about me. He leaned in, eyes sharp, protective, worried. Amoni, whatever it is, tell me. Her throat tightened, heat flushing up her neck. I've never been with anyone before. Everything froze. Jin-sung didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Didn't move. His pupils dilated so sharply it looked like someone had turned off the lights inside him. Finally he whispered, voice scraped raw. You're a virgin? Amoni nodded slowly, heart pounding. His reaction was immediate and uncontrollable. He stood up, pacing once, twice, raking a hand through his hair. He looked like the words had struck him physically. You should have told me. Amoni's breath caught. What? Does it bother you? He turned sharply. Bother me? His chest rose and fell too fast. He stepped closer, one step, but stopped himself from taking the second. His voice was hoarse, almost pained. Amoni, do you have any idea what that means to me? Her eyes widened. Is it bad? He laughed, a short, breathless, disbelieving sound. Bad? It's the one thing that made me realize how dangerous I am to you. Amoni swallowed. Dangerous. He dragged his hand down his face. I've lived a life full of violence, power, darkness, and you? He stopped. Looked at her. Really looked at her. His voice softened to a whisper meant only for her ears. You're untouched. Pure in ways the world doesn't deserve. And I. He broke off. His throat worked. His fists clenched. I don't want to take something from you. I want you to give it. Amoni's breath shivered. Her chest tightened. She whispered, What if I want to? He froze, stone still, like someone had pressed pause on him. His restraint was the most intimate thing he had ever done. Jin-sung stepped closer, slowly, painfully, every movement a battle. He reached out. Stopped. Tried again. His fingers brushed her cheek, barely, lightly, as if he feared he might bruise her. She felt him tremble. Actually tremble. Amoni. Her name broke in his throat. If you ask me, I won't be able to stop. She leaned into his touch, a whisper of a gesture, but it made him inhale sharply, like she'd cut through all his defenses. I'm not afraid of you, she said softly. His eyes burned. His voice came out as a rough confession. I'm afraid of myself. He pulls away because he wants her too much. Then he did the one thing she didn't expect. He stepped back. Not coldly. Not rejecting her. But with desperation, as if the distance was the only thing keeping him sane. Amoni, when you're ready, truly ready, I'll touch you. A beat. But not tonight. If I start now, I'll forget to be gentle. Her heart thundered. He turned away, gripping the back of the couch for balance, breathing hard like she had undone him completely. Amoni stared at him, at the powerful, feared mafia boss who was practically shaking from holding himself back. And she realized, he wasn't avoiding her. He was protecting her from the depth of his desire. Protecting her from himself. Protecting something sacred between them. The next 48 hours moved like a storm. Security doubled. Windows were reinforced. Guards patrolled every floor. But the real chaos was inside Jin-sung. Ever since he learned Amoni was untouched, something in him changed, sharpened, softened, conflicted all at once. He didn't avoid her. He hovered. Quietly. Constantly. Always close enough that she felt his presence. But never close enough to touch her again. And that tension was dangerous. She finds him training alone. Late one evening, unable to sleep, Amoni followed the faint sound of fists hitting leather. In the private gym, Jin-sung stood shirtless before a punching bag, sweat trailing down his back. His knuckles were red. His jaw set tight. Every punch shook with something raw. He didn't notice her until her shadow crossed the floor. The moment he saw her, he froze. Breathing hard. Chest rising and falling. Eyes darkening with a pull he didn't hide fast enough. Amoni, you shouldn't be in here. She stepped closer anyway, heart hammering. Why are you doing this to yourself? He wiped sweat from his forehead, avoiding her gaze. I needed a distraction. From what? She asked. Silence. Then very quietly. From you. Her breath caught. He tries to walk away. But she doesn't let him. She moved to stand in front of him, arms crossed, refusing to let him retreat into his walls. Why do I scare you more than snipers do? His eyes snapped to hers, heat flashing like lightning. Because I can fight snipers. A beat. His voice lowered, rougher. I can't fight what you make me feel. Amoni swallowed, her voice soft. You said you'd wait until I was ready? He tensed. Yes. So what if I'm ready now? He inhaled sharply, so sharply it almost hurt to hear. Don't say that. His voice cracked. Not when I'm like this. Like what? She whispered. He squeezed his eyes shut, fists trembling. Barely holding myself together. The moment everything snaps. Amoni reached out. Just her fingertips, brushing the side of his forearm. Jin-sung reacted like she had dug straight into his soul. His breath shuddered. His eyes opened, dark and blazing. His self-control trembled visibly. Amoni. Her name escaped him like a plea. Don't touch me like that unless you're prepared for the consequences. But she stepped closer. One slow, deliberate step. Her voice barely above a whisper. Then teach me what those consequences are. That was it. That was the moment the mafia boss broke. He didn't grab her. Didn't drag her in. He moved slowly, painfully slowly, until he was close enough that her breath brushed his lips. His hand rose, stopped halfway. Then cupped her cheek like she was something sacred. His thumb ran along her jaw. Gentle. Reverent. Terrified. You don't know what you're doing to me, he whispered. Then show me. He exhaled sharply, a helpless, tortured breath, and finally closed the distance. The first kiss. His lips touched hers like he was afraid she might vanish. Soft. Warm. Barely a whisper of a kiss. A tremble ran through him, not lust, but emotion so intense it nearly buckled his knees. Amoni's hand slid to the back of his neck, and he let out a quiet sound, a broken, breathless exhale he tried to hide against her mouth. Then he deepened the kiss. Not with hunger. Not with dominance. With a slow, devastating reverence, as if kissing her was something he'd dreamed of but never believed he deserved. Amoni's hands gripped his shoulders. Jin Song's arm slid around her waist, pulling her closer but still gentle, painfully gentle, like one wrong move might shatter her. It wasn't a kiss of passion. It was a confession. A surrender. A promise. A claim. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers, breathing ragged, heart pounding against his ribs. Amoni. His voice was raw. Tell me to stop. Please, just once. Tell me to stop. She cupped his face, her thumb brushing his cheek. Why would I tell you to stop? His eyes closed, pained and overwhelmed. Because if you don't, I won't know how to. He leaves before he loses control. He stepped back, abruptly, almost violently, like touching her any longer would break him completely. He didn't look at her. Didn't speak. He just grabbed his shirt, threw it over his shoulder and left the gym with a shaking breath. For the first time she saw him retreat not from danger, but from desire. From her. From himself. And Amoni realized with a tremor of her own. That kiss meant more to him than he could ever admit. The penthouse felt smaller at night, as if the city had folded in and left just the two of them. Jin Song moved through it like a man skirting edges, careful, tense, as if every step might crack something fragile inside him. Amoni found him in the library, where the curtains pulled heavy shadows over rows of books. He was standing by the window, hands pressed flat to the glass, staring out at the glittering city as though trying to read the skyline like a map of threats and promises. She crossed the room quietly. The sound of her slippers on marble made him turn, and the look he gave her was the kind that made her knees forget how to stand steady. You're home late, she said, simple, steady. He gave a humorless half-smile and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Meetings? Problems. The usual. She stepped closer until she could see the faint dark line at his temple where the cut from the rooftop scrap had scabbed. The usual doesn't look like this, she answered softly. For a moment he didn't speak. Then very plainly, you were out on the rooftop. That made the usual different. His voice was flat, but his fingers tightened against the window until the knuckles paled. She reached out and laid a hand over his. The contact was small, almost casual, but it drew a raw sound from him, a breath that wasn't quite a sigh. He looked at their joined hands like it was something sacred and dangerous at once. We can harden the guards, move the patrols, reroute the cars, Amoni offered. You don't have to carry this alone. He laughed, short, disbelieving. I don't carry alone because I want to. I carry so others won't have to feel the weight. His eyes found hers, blunt and honest. But you shouldn't be a weight. You're the one who married me, she said. I'm not your liability. For the first time in days his mask slipped. Jin Song turned, coming closer until the light from the city etched the planes of his face. He didn't touch her yet, only closed the distance. When I thought someone would take you from me, his voice cracked on the word, I realized I can survive anything but that. She swallowed. You don't have to prove anything. He searched her face as if memorizing it. It's not proof I seek. I don't know what it is. He let out a breath as if that small admission had cost him something. Amoni stepped into his space. Quietly, she lifted a hand to his cheek. He flinched, a tiny involuntary reaction, and then leaned into her palm, letting his forehead rest against her knuckles. The gesture was not theatrical, it was someone letting down a gate. You said you'd wait, she whispered. You said you'd be gentle. His laugh this time was almost a sob. I said I'd wait because I was afraid of what I'd do if I didn't. He closed his eyes and swallowed. When he opened them, they were bare and dangerous and painfully human. I don't want to take anything from you, Amoni. I want you to give me what you will, on your terms. She stepped closer until they were inches apart. The heat between them was more than physical. It was a pressure that hummed in the bones. Jin Song's hand came up, hovered, then brushed the edge of her jaw with the gentlest pressure. His thumb trembled as it traced the line of her face. "You never told me," he murmured, voice low enough that the word became private. "You would make me feel like this." She searched his face. "Like how?" He inhaled sharply, a sound of surprise and awe. "Like you're the only place I can breathe. Like," he paused, the confession heavy on the air, "you're this tight around my heart." The words came out almost as a gasp, an image that revealed more tenderness than he'd ever allow in public. Amoni's throat warmed. She reached up, curled her fingers into the soft hair at his temple. "Then stay," she said simply. "Stay with me tonight. Don't go hold the world up alone." His hands found her waist as if they had been practicing the motion for years. Not possessive, not demanding, protective. He drew her close so their bodies could measure one another without words. For a breath, for a long, trembling beat, everything outside the room receded. Jin Song's lips brushed the shell of her ear, his voice barely a whisper. "If I'm honest, I'm terrified of what I'll become if I lose you." He pressed his forehead to hers, eyes closed. "I have done terrible things. I don't want those things to touch you." Amoni tilted her face up and kissed the corner of his mouth, quick, reassuring, sure. "Then let me be your reason to stop." Her fingers threaded behind his neck, encouraging him, steadying him. He exhaled, the sound equal parts relief and anguish. "Promise me one thing," he said, voice husky. "When I'm weak, hold me. And when I'm dangerous, stop me. I can't promise I'll always be good. But I can promise I'll always come back to you." She smiled, small and fierce. "I will," she answered. "I'll hold you and I'll stop you. But you don't get to leave me out here to fight alone." He laughed then, not the harsh public laugh that kept allies in line, but something softer, a private sound that belonged only to her. He dipped his head and kissed her softly, reverently, a seal on the promises they'd both made in halves and whispers. When they pulled away, his eyes were clear. "Tonight," he said, almost a command softer than pleading, "you stay." She nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." He carried her to the bedroom not like a conqueror but like a man carrying treasure. Careful, reverent, aware. He closed the door behind them with a hand that trembled less than it had a moment before. In the quiet that followed, both of them let down their defenses and found for the first time that two fragile things could shelter each other. The rain had started some time before dawn, soft, persistent, the kind that whispered against the windows like a lullaby. Amoni woke slowly, the world warm and quiet around her. For a moment she didn't understand why her body felt so protected. Then she realized she wasn't alone. Jin Song was sitting beside her, his back against the headboard, still dressed in the black shirt from the night before. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair messy, his jawline shadowed with sleep. But his eyes were on her, watching her, guarding her, as if she were something rare and breakable. Amoni blinked. "Have you been awake all night?" His voice dropped into a whisper. "I didn't want to miss you waking up." Her breath caught, a soft, involuntary sound that tugged the corner of his mouth upward. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair away from her face with slow, reverent fingers. "Amoni?" His tone was something she hadn't heard from him before. A blend of awe and fear. "Last night, you showed me a version of myself I didn't think existed." She sat up a little, the blanket falling softly over her lap. "Which version?" "The man who doesn't have to pretend." He exhaled, shoulders loosening as if letting go of armor. "The man who doesn't have to win to feel alive. The man who—" He looked away for a beat. "The man who loves." Amoni's chest tightened. "Jin Song." He shook his head. "Let me say it." He leaned forward, elbows braced on his knees, eyes burning with sincerity. "I don't know how to love softly. I don't know how to love halfway. I don't know how to love and stay sane." He swallowed hard. "But I know I love you." The words hit the air like a confession and a surrender at the same time. Amoni's lips parted, shock melting into warmth, into a trembling breath she couldn't hide. "You love me?" He gave a slow nod. "I fought it. I tried to bury it under business, weapons, threats. But every time I look at you, everything in me just—" His hand slammed lightly against his chest. "Tightens." Amoni placed her palm over his. "Then, let it." His breathing stuttered. She guided his hand to her cheek, letting him feel the warmth of her skin. "You don't have to learn all at once. You just have to let me stay." Jin Song's throat bobbed with emotion he couldn't hide. "You make it sound so simple." "Love is," she whispered. "It's people who complicate it." He gave a soft laugh, raw and uneven. "You're going to ruin me." "No," she replied gently. "I'm going to rebuild you." The softness he never knew he needed. Jin Song reached for her slowly, not like a man used to taking, but like someone asking permission without words. Amoni moved closer until her forehead rested against his collarbone. His arms wrapped around her instinctively, pulling her into his chest. She felt his heartbeat, fast, strong, unsteady. Amoni, he murmured into her hair, I'm scared. Of what? Of hurting you. Of losing control. Of losing you. She held him tighter. You won't. Not when you're like this. Not when you're honest. He let out a shuddering breath, the kind a man releases when the world has been too heavy for too long. She tilted her head up, brushing her lips softly against the line of his jaw, a kiss that was comfort and confession all at once. His eyes fluttered closed, a soft groan escaping him. You're going to undo me. Then let me. His arms tightened around her waist, pulling her fully onto his lap. She gasped softly, hands bracing against his chest, but he only held her as if she were fragile silk. I don't want you afraid of me, he whispered. I'm not, she whispered back. Jin Song cupped her face with both hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks with reverence. Then tell me how to love you. Amoni's breath hitched at the raw plea in his voice. You're already doing it, she said. By being here. By choosing me. By letting me see the parts of you no one else has ever touched. His grip on her waist tightened, protective, emotional, overwhelmed. I want you, he breathed against her lips, but not for what you think. I want you because you make me feel like the man I should have been before this world made me hard. Amoni kissed him, soft, deep, slow. Rain against windows. Breath against skin. Two heartbeats learning each other's rhythm. When she pulled back, she rested her forehead against his. I love you too, Jin Song. His entire body froze. Then he let out a trembling exhale, a sound of disbelief, relief, hunger, and devotion tangled together. You do? He whispered as if afraid the moment would vanish. I do, she murmured. All of you. He pressed his lips to hers again, a kiss filled with gratitude and wonder more than heat, though heat simmered underneath, waiting patiently. The promise. He held her in his lap, his forehead against her temple, breathing her in. I'll spend the rest of my life earning that, he whispered. I'll protect you. I'll guide you. I'll cherish you. His voice lowered to a reverent murmur. You're mine, and I'm yours. Amoni curled her fingers into his shirt. Then take my hand and let's build something real. Jin Song wrapped his fingers around hers, lifting their joined hands to his lips. This is my vow, he said. To love you. To listen. And to never let anything take you from me. Rain kept falling outside, steady, soft, sweeping the world clean. And inside the room, for the first time since their marriage, they weren't a mafia boss and his virgin wife. They were simply two souls choosing each other against the world.